body vessel, then all dimensions will be spanned, right? From the physical to the non-physical. Just like the body is like the tip of the iceberg. You only see, the certain part of it, and it's the smallest part. And that's kind of where the manifestation has breached into the outer five senses. But again, we moved from the deep space, right, all the way from the depths that aren't seen, and we spanned all the spectrums from presence to the body. And that's why if you can enter the now moment, they both converge, right? The body and spirit merge as one, physical and non-physical existing together. Even though they seem like polar opposites, they both come from the same space. And of course, everything will unite if you go back to the origin, right? So again, the origin of all life is consciousness itself. That is the first phenomena, that's the first being. And the more people go into presence and, there's deep self-identity of consciousness, the more it blends back into a unified field of energy where all the different fields are exchanging this energy. So they're breathing the same energy, just like we breathe the same air, right? Walk on the same earth. The fabric of life all shares the same energy. And when you go back into consciousness, you see how we're all one, even though we have our own unique individual identity and our own free will. There is a way that everything dances co-creatively in harmonization, which is like the eternal law of one that a lot of the ancient cultures like Native Americans and whatnot understood deeply, right? That oneness. So again, we'll never know any of that from the mind, because the mind is designed to create labels and to divide, right, for a certain level of experience. But if that experience isn't grounded in our core truth of being, then we're going to be disconnected from, the roots of reality, and we could get lost in the illusion, right, of materialized life, of matter, right, of the physical world, which is just like a puppet show in many ways. So again, we've done lots of healthy stuff, right, and by coming back to ourselves and our authentic state as awareness and spirit, we have actually understood the truth of reality and what reality is more. And we didn't have to learn it from anything outside of ourselves. We know all this inherently because we are energy and consciousness itself. And everything around us that we see is made up of energy and consciousness. So if you learn about yourself as energy and consciousness, and you come to know yourself, right, as that again, to remember that which you already know inside, then everything else around you will become demystified, because you have learned, the center of your universe, and you are the direct connection back to that God window, right, or direct point of commune with nature inside of you. So again, very powerful. And again, we all have the ability to do it. So say you are in pigeon pose, you want to ease out of one side. If you were still in the same side, you can take time to shift out. But again, all the basic stuff we have, right? Our body, relaxed shoulders, soft face, deep breath, right? All very basic things, right? Not highly mystical, right? Not unfathomable for the mind to process, to understand the integrity of those layers. And again, those help us kind of ease out of mental fixation if we're too high-strung and overtrained into the mind, and they help us resensitize back to the deeper aspects of ourselves as awareness, right? And of course, just deeper harmony as we go through the layers. And again, that deep breath, nice and smooth. And remember, the breath is very special too, because it has a special call back to presence as consciousness too. Because when we're in the mind, right, the breath is very boring to the mind, right? There's nothing to think about. That's why the mind doesn't focus on anything that doesn't utilize the function of thinking. And if you look at being, by definition, it does not require thinking to exist. And in fact, if you look at the absolute order of things, thinking cannot exist if there isn't a being doing the thinking. But beings can exist even if there's no thinking going on. So again, very powerful to just settle into the stillness and clarity of self in your inner space. And again, we've utilized the body as a window of that enlightenment to help us experience a truth, an inner core truth, by activating ourselves in a way to call that expression forth, right? And so it brought us closer to consciousness and self, and everything benefits when we do that. So nice easy breath. If you are in pigeon, you want to ease out, you have space to float up gently. And obviously always a couple options. You can circle the legs through and anchor on sit bones and take some forward fold stretches or seated twists, or your feet can pull together, little cobbler's pose, right? Knees aside as you lean forward, inner thigh stretch. Again, all these spaces and zones are just the same areas that your thoughts and emotions pass through, the same area, right, that the food transfers into energy and passes into, right? The same areas we use to perceive things, right? And to move our body around for experience of gathering more experience of self, right? And again, if the mind's moving the body around, it's going to create a unhealthy relationship of compaction, right? But if awareness is moving the body around, then you're going to have that natural in-breath and out-breath back through, just like back to God or nature. Open communication, a true conversation, right? Just like everything does, the universal breath, the tides roll forward and pull back, same as your lungs, right? Same as the night and day cycles. So again, we're just dancing back into the harmony of all things, and just learning to live life like a dance, because it is an energy dance, and we can hear the music when we become empathically present in the now moment through this type of awareness training that we're doing, which is really just returning back to our being, right? And in that energetic dance, we can harmonize everything, right? That we have the power to harmonize, and everything that we have the power over, we were given enough to create our future line of safety and security, right, through the realms, just off of our own space. And in order to be a self-master, everyone has the same ability, and no one can control another's path, because you wouldn't want another controlling your path, because that would disempower you greatly. So again, we can just evolve and upshift ourselves, and then in doing that, we radiate out a strong energy that others can use as a beacon of inspiration as well, and strength, and that will make their path easier too, right? So again, just bringing yourself back to your power and living from your power is your divine purpose, and that will look many different ways for people with their different skills, but we all have the same core being nature. Then we must come back to be present empathically in the now stream of life. So very, very special when we start to walk this path of consciousness consciously, and that's the path of self, and it's an inward path that takes us higher and higher. And as we have this activated again, we bring our gifts not only to ourselves, but we are able to extend them outward through us to the world around us. So easy breaths. You might even be on your back right now, shifted from seated onto your back, where you could have happy baby or feet to ground with a little bridge, hips to sky, or you could roll off side to side for twists, or wherever you want. But again, you're definitely in an inner space, which is very expansive. The more you go inward, the larger you get of space, right? And the more space you have, it does a lot of things to your perception. So again, most of this stuff, you'll understand it the more you experience it. And that's why they say that Truth can never be spoken, it must be experienced. You can describe your experience to others, and that is like a pointer, and then they'll have their own experiences, and the common energy resonance between people and their perceptions of life and their experiences will build a bridge that keeps the harmony passing between us all. So wherever you are, nice and steady, easy breaths. If you want Shavasana, if you're not already in it, you can just take a nice easy inhale, and in your own time, on the exhale, you can just float out nice and steady and just take a few smooth breaths with yourself for next little bit.